Hi, everybody. Meteorologist Joe Cioffi. Weather in 5 days and 5 minutes, brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon in southwest Suffolk County on Long Island, serving the entire New York, New Jersey, Connecticut tri-state area with everything you need when it comes to making sure your home is looking great, working well, and is protected just in case, and you're protected just in case there is adverse weather. 631-756-1125, the best prices you can find anywhere. OmniTrueValue.com is the website. So we're going to start it off with Hurricane Fiona, which is now, just about 600 or so miles southeast of New York City. The hurricane is really holding its own, and it's also moving rather quickly now to the northeast at about 35 miles per hour, and it is still a Category 4 hurricane. We have the latest reconnaissance aircraft that is there, and you can see the fixes here from that this plane made of the center: 937 millibars, 936, 938, then 940. And look at the spacing in between these fixes, and each one gets longer and longer. The third longer than the first, and then we have the winds, where you're seeing the pinkish color wind barbs here indicating winds of 113 to 137 knots, and even a small belt of winds exceeding 137 knots, all occurring east of the center. And this is on its way to Nova Scotia, and we are going to see a landfall somewhere in the eastern part of Nova Scotia. Hurricane warnings are in effect for Nova Scotia and also for the southern and part of Newfoundland, the southwestern part of Newfoundland, and the western coast of Newfoundland. In the blue areas that you see, tropical storm warnings up for New Brunswick, going back to the main New Brunswick border, and also for southernmost Labrador. Now, once landfall is achieved, the system slows down. It makes the complete transition over into what we refer to as a post-tropical cyclone, and moves on its merry way, eventually probably winding up into Greenland. We're going to have complete coverage of this tonight at 7:30 Eastern Time on the Joe and Joe Weather Show. We have the new Tropical Depression 9, and we talked about this yesterday, that the outflow from Fiona was creating northeasterly shear over the system, and you can see the result of that if you notice where you see all the big cluster of clouds and the lightning strikes. That convection is to the west of the center. The center of the depression is actually almost completely exposed, but that shear is going to disappear in the next 24 hours. And we are beginning to see a little bit of evidence of that, because you're starting to see some higher cloud tops developing on the eastern side. So it may take another 24 hours or so for this system to organize enough to become a tropical storm, because we've got to wait for that shear to get out of the way. Jamaica is in the upper left, the Dominican Republic, Hispaniola directly north of it, and Puerto Rico to the northeast, and no weather of real consequences occurring on any of those islands at that point. So for now, not much is going on with respect to that. Just to run down just a couple of other stats with Fiona, by the way. 37.8 north. This is at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. 37.8 north, 62.0 west. The max winds here are 130 miles per hour, and it's moving northeast at 35 miles per hour. Also want to take a look at Tropical Depression 9 in terms of its forecast from the Hurricane Center. And you see that they have it going west to west-northwest into tomorrow, and then making a gradual turn toward the northwest as it moves up through the Caribbean and heads towards western Cuba. We want to point out that I think it's going to be close enough to Jamaica. If we start to see that convection develop on the west side, that Jamaica could be in line for some heavy rains out of this. And it is forecast to become a hurricane sometime late Sunday or later Sunday night or early Monday. And ultimately, it's forecast to become a major hurricane, and the risks for the west coast of Florida are increasing. with this. And also here, too, we will have complete coverage coming up tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show. Here's we have the GFS to take a look at what's going to be happening weather-wise for Friday through the weekend into next week locally. And of course, on the upper right will be Fiona making landfall tomorrow morning as a strong Cat 3 here on the GFS, maybe even still a Cat 4. It's going to be hard to tell how much of its intensity is going to hold. We're going to just pretty much do this on the fly now with regards to what the actual impact is going to be. It's just a matter of watching observations and seeing what's happening. Meanwhile, beautiful day in the Northeast. And no mistake about that. We've got sunny skies. There are clouds in upstate New York and up in New England. We also have a gusty wind because of the gradient. You can see the high in southern Lake Michigan, the hurricane out to the east, a lot of isobars in between. So we've got gusty winds. That'll continue tonight. Temperatures today, this afternoon, upper 50s to mid 60s for highs from southern New England and the Hudson Valley south into Maryland and Delaware. That nice dry air, by the way, made it all the way down into the southeastern part of the U.S. Saturday looks good. The high moves off the North Carolina coast. The winds will ease. We'll have sunshine. Still a bit of a breeze, though, for at least a while, and temperatures upper 60s and low 70s. Then Sunday, the next cold front will approach, and we could see some showers here late in the day, maybe a thunderstorm or two late afternoon and evening as that front goes by. And then another cool air mass will be building into the Northeast. Now here comes what will eventually be a tropical storm or a hurricane moving into the southeast Gulf of Mexico. And the latest GFS keeps it off the west coast of Florida and takes it up toward the Panhandle. But it's a little tricky here when it comes to these things. The models have been jumping back and forth. I'll show you what the hurricane tracking models are doing. You've got a cluster of them taking it into the west coast of Florida, north of Fort Myers and south of Tampa, but we have a few members going further west. Ultimately, it's hard to say what the impact may be, if at all, to places further north in the southeastern part of the United States and the mid-Atlantic and into the Northeast. That's still a long ways away, and we'll be talking also about that tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show. Weather in 5, brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware, 631-756-1125, the phone number, the best prices in town for whatever you need to make sure that your home is looking good, working well, and is protected by any adverse weather. The website is omnitruevalue.com. So attention tonight on Fiona as it makes its final approach to Nova Scotia with a landfall sometime early Saturday morning. We'll see you tonight at 7:30.